Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview some of the most successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in the industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by Nate Armstrong, a turnkey property provider that operates in multiple states. In addition to learning more about Nate and his company, Calhoun Ventures, and Nate's turnkey model, we're also going to talk about full service wholesaling. Now, many wholesalers simply post properties to other investors and essentially throw them over the fence to somebody else, close on the deal, and be done with it. But Nate's going to discuss a model where he does a lot more hand-holding for customers that need it and what we're going to call a full-service wholesaling model. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Nate, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I say this to a lot of folks, like many of our guests that we have on the show, that you came highly recommended from another guest that we had on recently, and so I know you've got a lot of great experiences and a good story to share.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you making some time for me, but I'll give you my quick story, but feel free to jump in with any questions that you might have.
Alrighty.
So I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Was raised in northern Minnesota. After college, I followed the wisdom of mom and dad, which was go to school, get a good job. So I got the job after college. I started working for the Target Corporation and spent about 4 years with them, and recognized that every 6 to 9 months I would get a promotion, and my job title would get fancier, but my pay would only go up by about maybe a millimeter or so.
Right.
And responsibilities would double. So I started looking for other opportunities.
Yeah.
And I came across real estate in 2007. By November of 2007, I started flipping houses on my own on the weekends. And this was at a time in the market, especially in Minneapolis, where the economy was starting to crash and real estate values were starting to go down. And I went for it anyways. I didn't really know any better, so I just decided I wanted to go for it, and did my few houses on my own, and then eventually just decided I was going to resign from Target. And interestingly, I share the story for a reason. Interestingly, when I did my resignation at Target, I handed my boss my typed up resignation letter, and he opens it and he looks at me and he said, "Well, Nate, we don't want you to go, but if you are going to go, then how do I do real estate with you?" And this light bulb went on, and I said, "Okay, well, how can I do this?" So I ended up leaving, and my boss from Target, Jeff Stokes, he's still a buyer of mine today.
That's great.
He was my first buyer, started doing deals for him, and then started doing deals for my dentist, and then it just kind of expanded from there.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, so talk a little bit about, I'm always interested to hear people's, how you had an interest in real estate. Like, how did that come about? Is it something you'd had for a long time and just never acted on, or?
The era of the mid-2000s, so 2003 through 2007 was the era of Flip That House.
Yeah.
Every other TV show was on, and I bet you I've watched almost every single one of them during that time.
Yeah.
Richard with his trademark properties, the Montalongo brothers, all of those people. I watched them all because I was just addicted to it. So that kind of fell naturally on me that I just wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Prior to that, during college, I paid my way through school by running a painting business.
Okay.
So I hired a bunch of my friends, and we painted houses all summer long, and that afforded me to be able to pay for school. So I already had the entrepreneurial background.
Yeah.
And then after being at Target for 4 years and recognizing that it was going to take a really, really long time to get to where I wanted to be in life, I just said, well, what else can I do?
Right.
And
what general role were you in at Target?
So my last role, I started off in a management trainee position, and then got bumped up to a manager, then got bumped up to kind of a group leader. And my last position with Target, they actually put me in charge of facility operations.
Okay.
So as a fairly young guy, only a few years out of school, I was in charge of a multi-million-dollar capital expenditure budget where I got to hire contractors,
Yeah.
build stuff for Target.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was building bathrooms, offices, all that kind of stuff inside of facilities in a couple different areas around the country.
Yeah, my I don't know if you know, my background is almost all retail as well for some other large retailers, and I think of it often. I use it as an example because it's so much of my background, but I think retail is a very natural fit to real estate investing. I mean, most of my background was more in the merchant side of the business, but you're effectively sourcing product at a cheap price and adding value somehow and marking it up. And so, and there's a lot of different, even from a retail storefront perspective, there's so many natural fits to providing good customer service and things like that. So yeah, that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And one of the things that I learned at Target was just leadership. I mean, they're one of the better companies in the world that's built good teams, and they execute under the principles that you just described. So I don't regret my time there at all. If I could do it all over again, I would do it the exact same way. It was just a time for me to make a leap, and I did.
Yeah, yeah. And so you basically, I know you operate a turnkey model now, but it sounds like my experience is a lot of people that are in turnkey, they evolved to that model over time, one way or another. It sounds like you kind of came out of the gate with a model very similar to maybe what you're doing today.
Yeah, I pretty much did. I mean, I did my handful of deals on my own, completely independent, and I did that by scraping together a little tiny bit of cash that I had. I did a cash advance on a credit card to pay for a rehab and used a bank loan to buy a house. So I scraped together my first few deals on my own. And then when my boss said, "Hey, can you do this for me too?" This big light bulb went off, and I said, "Wow, I can do this without my own money?
Yeah.
Yes, this is great." So, and then the other thing that evolved from that is I realized that I could do it on my own and I could pull together my resources to do it. But when I started doing it for other people, I recognized that I benefited. And here's how. I'll give you a couple examples. So right now, today, fast forward from 2007 to 2014, now we have some months where we'll literally close on 60 houses in 1 month.
Wow.
So our volume has exponentially increased. But our prices have decreased overall on renovations. Couple examples, AC units. I just put in an AC unit last Friday. I had one go down in one of our Kansas City houses. I did it for $1,400 delivered and installed.
Wow.
Now, back in 2007, I was paying $3,000, maybe even $3,500, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But with our volume, I've learned that our prices can drop.
Sure.
Water heaters, we're paying $350. Carpet delivered and installed, we're paying $1.60 per square foot. And it's a decent carpet with an 8-pound pad underneath it.
Yeah.
So the more houses that I did for other people, the more it benefited me on my personal houses.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting too is what a lot of folks don't realize until you get into the volume business is that, time is money, obviously. And a lot of what you start to get when you start to do volume is just much better service from contractors that tends to, have a lot of opportunities to be pretty poor quality. So when a contractor, a lot of contractors that we typically work with spend half of their time looking for work or bidding jobs that they may never get. And I think when they start to realize that, wow, if I work with you, I can have fairly steady business all the time, then they start to price some of that in. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can, that's a selling proposition too. If you get the contractor to come down to your level on price, your level, your quality, your level of service as well. But if you get them to perform at that level consistently, then when you sit down with your buyers, it's an easy way to say, hey, look, if you did this project on your own, retail price is going to be up here. If you do it through our team, if you buy this wholesale deal from us and we plug in our contractor, you're going to get the renovation done down here. So it's a really good selling service as well.
Yeah. I definitely look forward to talking more about kind of full service wholesaling and how you work with customers to provide a lot more value than just sourcing the initial deal, which is what a lot of wholesalers do. But before we go there, tell us a little bit about your company and how it's evolved and how you operate today. And before we even start with that, maybe explain for folks that maybe have heard the term a number of times, a turnkey rental provider, and just explain a little bit about what that means to you.
Yes, so turnkey rental provider is literally taking a distressed property, fixing it up, like not just splashing paint on the wall and carpet on the floor, like going in there and finding all the hazards, correcting things like if it's smoke detectors that need to be hardwired to meet modern code, or CO detectors, handrails getting returns to the walls. I mean, going through houses top to bottom and making sure that they're bulletproof for a rental. Once you do that, then basically you partner with a good property management company to screen tenants, find good high quality tenants. When I say screen, I don't just mean like, hey, quick, do this application and then you can move into the house. I mean, check income. Is income 3 times the monthly rent or greater? Yeah. We actually just bumped our income criteria up to 3.5 times monthly rent. So what that means is if the rent is $1,000 per month, the minimum income that we would have ever accepted was $3,000. Now we're at $3,500.
Right.
Checking for criminal, UD, anything like that on their record, and then also checking their credit score and their references.
Okay.
So full renovation, full service screening of the tenants, and then placement of the tenants, and then we hand over these properties that are totally renovated and screened tenants with an income producing tenant in there. We hand that over to our end buyer.
Okay. And are you taking possession, or are you assigning these and then providing those services?
We do both. So there's some nuances that are important on both equations. Yeah. My preferred model that I do with most people that are just coming in the door brand new to us is I own it all the way through until it's tenanted, and then I market it for sale.
Okay.
Now, with some of our clients that we've known for a while that we have a relationship with, they're comfortable buying it on the front side while it's distressed, while it's broken.
Okay. Because
they know from our historical track record that we're going to deliver a good product.
Okay. And talk a little bit about why you said your preferred model is to take ownership, because my hunch would have been your preferred model is to not take ownership, which adds more cost and more risk for your side. But talk a little bit about why that's preferred from your perspective.
So every state's a little bit different, but when you're contracting for other people, let's say you decide you want to come to Minnesota and buy a house from us that's broken, and we're going to fix it for you and then place tenants and then hand it over. To represent you as a contractor in the state of Minnesota, I would have to be a licensed general contractor to manage your contractors for you.
I see.
And so other states that we work in, like Missouri, don't have that law.
Right.
But it kind of varies region by region.
Yeah.
In a case like that, it's much better for me just to buy it, to own it, and then to hand it over to you once it's totally done. I can do the contracting on my own house.
Right, right. And talk a little bit about financing for your buyers. I know a number of folks that essentially teach them how to use Fannie and Freddie loans for their first 4 to 10 properties. It gets challenging after that. But talk a little bit about, do you play a role in helping them get financing to be able to essentially help you monetize the deal?
Yeah, so I'm going to break that question up into 2 sections. I'm going to break it up into how I can finance this, which will translate to anybody else out there listening on how they could do it, and then also how we help our buyers do it.
Okay.
So first thing is we never go to the big banks that do Fannie Freddie loans. Why? Because they have too much red tape and too many restrictions. Mm-hmm. We go to the small local community banks. And if you're in a market that's already started to recover, which most markets have, then it's really easy to get bank financing again. Even the folks that maybe got turned down a year ago, it's time to go back to those same banks and knock on the door and see if they're lending yet. It's interesting. In 2007, 2008, when I was first getting started, I had my really good job at Target, and then I resigned. So the banks that were giving me loans before I resigned said, hey, we're not giving you any more loans now that you've resigned from your job.
Right.
So I kind of had to figure stuff out. So what I figured out is that don't go to the big banks, go to the small banks, go to the credit unions. A lot of the credit unions actually get incentives for putting money into their community. So they're motivated to help restore some of the vacant houses that are out there, and they're motivated to get money on the street to qualified borrowers.
Yeah. So
what we do is we partner with the local credit unions to help pick up the properties. My typical rates are I get what's called a construction loan, and I usually get about 75% loan to value. So whatever the house is worth when it's all fixed up, they'll give me about 75% of that. And then whatever cash beyond that 75% mark, I have to put that in myself. So I'll put that in. And sometimes what I'll do, I usually use my own cash on some of those things. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll just partner with other investors in town, and I'll just say, hey, do you want to fund part of the rehab? And I'll have them put up a little tiny bit of capital that's needed to finish the deal.
Okay.
So that's how I do it on my side. And then what I do for the buyers is I go back to those same banks and I say, hey, can you do a conventional loan for my buyer? Most of my buyers, sometimes they're not even in real estate full time, doctors, dentists, etc. But the bank feels totally comfortable lending on an asset that's totally fixed for people that aren't even in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting from a lot of experiences that I have is the banks don't want that money back. They want to keep that money out. Keep it working.
Yep.
Yeah.
My last trip back to Minneapolis, so 2007, 2008, I was begging banks for money. And now my last trip back to Minneapolis, just 3-4 weeks ago, I actually had 2 different bankers texting me and calling me, begging to sit down. And I finally just answered the call on one of them, and I said, hey, I'm super busy. I don't have time to have lunch. I'm sorry. What's up? And then he told me, he's like, well, Nate, we want to get more money on the street. Can you borrow some more, or can you refer some more of your buyers to us so we can get some cash out there?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's a 7-year difference, but that's the reality. Now lenders are saying, gosh, the market's coming back. We want to be part of this.
Right. Yeah, I've had that same experience. So from your turnkey model perspective, so then let's go into the property management side of that. Are you actively managing on their behalf, or do you outsource that?
So we hire local property managers to do everything. I'm not a licensed property manager in any state that we work in. So what we do is we go in and find the best property managers in the area, and then we set our client up with them. Okay.
And what's always interesting to hear from people that are running a turnkey model is your kind of liability or responsibility. If, for example, you put a tenant in there, you thought it was a great tenant, and they, 2 months later they stopped paying rent, or you thought the HVAC system was great, it was working fine, you had it tested, and you had a maintenance call on it, and then it goes bad. Just things like that. How do you deal with those issues that are kind of unknowns when you're selling to customers that you hope are repeat customers?
So that's a great question. I'm going to let a little bit more light in here as I answer that question.
Yep.
So two things. So number one, we actually before we purchase a house, we do a pre-inspection. So what that means to us is that we send our licensed inspector in, and yes, I still use licensed inspectors on the houses that we buy. I'm 500 plus houses under my belt, but I still like to have a third-party opinion of what the mechanicals look like and what the structure looks like.
Yeah.
So they go in and they make a list for us of everything that they find wrong with it, and then from that list that the inspector makes, I get my contractors to bid it out. And so then we close on the deal. We do the renovations based on the list of stuff that the inspector wrote and the contractors bid on. And following all of the renovations, I send the same inspector back into the house to do a post-inspection. So they'll go through the whole property top to bottom, test the hot water, test the mechanicals, plug in the little tester into all the outlets, test the GFIs. So they're doing another home inspection. Mm-hmm. And then what I do with that home inspection is I hand it off to our buyer and say, hey, you can do your own inspection if you want. Just so you know, I like to check our guys' work too. So here's the inspection report. Now, we have a target frame. Our target timeline for all of these renovations is that they should last about 5 years or more. And what that means to us on a turnkey house is that mechanicals, roof, major things should go for 5+ years. So if we think it's going to fail in the next 5 years, we rip it out and replace it. So example of that is like you got a 17-year-old furnace. It might still be running, but the average lifespan of a furnace is 15 to 20 years.
Right.
That would not qualify for lasting 5+ years. So we would have just replaced it anyways so that the new buyer doesn't have to worry about it.
Right, right. And of course, you're just trying to bake those things into your initial offer to make sure you've bought the property right in the first place, right?
Exactly. Yep. And then kind of the second part of your question is, well, what do we do if the unknown happens? And they still do. 1 out of 10 houses, you think you did everything right, and you'll have an 11-year-old furnace that junks out on you, and you say, oh, shoot. Well, that comes down to relationship. I mean, when you have a client that's coming in and trusting you to be a full-service turnkey provider, you have to make a decision. You have to say, well, gosh, can I afford to absorb this and then still make the client happy and keep moving forward? Or was I so tight on this deal that I have to have a conversation with them and just be honest? In every situation that we've done, 9 out of 10 times we're just replacing it for the client just to make sure that they're happy, especially if it's something that our rehab team should have caught.
Right.
So if it's something they should have caught, that's totally on us. If it's something that was totally unforeseen, then we call our client back and we be very honest with them and say, hey, look, we could not have predicted this. Both inspection reports said that it was good. Tell you what, we can get it done for you at cost. And our cost is oftentimes 60% of retail price. So when they hear that word, they're happy just in and of itself.
Yeah. So aside from issues like that, once you sell the property and you hand it off, do you have a role at all in anything from an ongoing perspective?
So we like to follow up with our property managers, particularly for the first 30 days. If there's any maintenance calls, I like our team to handle them. And I'll give you an example of what the most common maintenance call is on move-in weekend, plumbing things. Even though we run the hot water, we make sure the hot water heater's lit, we teach the tenant how to run the circuit panel and teach them all the little things of the house. There always seems to be something when you put a lot of pressure on the plumbing. You're running the washer, dishwasher, shower at the same time.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you see something that you didn't see during the entire renovation.
Right.
We send our team out there for free because that's a warranty call.
Yeah.
If I had my plumber in there and I spent $3,000 with the plumber, he's going back out there and fixing whatever's wrong with it.
Right.
So first month we keep a close eye on maintenance calls. And then after that, our clients always keep in touch with us because our goal is not to sell somebody one house. Our goal is 6+ houses per year. And almost every single one of our clients does that. So we want to make sure that they're still having a good experience.
Yeah.
I had a house, 1348 3rd Street in St. Paul, Minnesota, that we had sold as a package to a hedge fund. And the tenant, he had been with me for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when the property transitioned over, he left in the middle of the night. And of course, he left the place kind of beat up. So without my client even knowing, this is after the sale was complete, I sent in our rehab crew. We put in new carpet, we painted the place and made it look nice and fresh. And then we leased it up for him. And by the time that he even caught wind of it, it was already leased. And he's like, wow, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But here's what happened immediately after that. And he didn't ask for it. We just did it anyways. He came back and he's probably bought 70 houses from us since.
Wow.
Now, we weren't expecting that either, but it just kind of happens. When you take care of people, then they're going to naturally want to work with you more.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So in your customers that you sell to now, I know you operate in several different states. Do they tend to say, hey, I want to buy everything in this one market, or do you have people that are getting comfortable with buying properties in lots of different markets?
So 3 years ago, I would have said people really like to stay in their own backyard or their own comfort area. But today, people are coming in with an open mind. And I'll give you an example. So Minneapolis, Minnesota now, 3 years ago, Minneapolis was kind of in the bottom of the trough. And we all know that real estate goes up, comes down, and every 7 to 10 years, we have some sort of adjustment in values. And Minneapolis was in the middle of the trough 3-4 years ago, and it's came up a lot since then.
Right.
We actually went through a 2-year stretch where we had 20+% gain in the market, and that's huge. I mean, that's a % plus per month.
Right.
And so some of the buyers that we had sold a lot of houses to in Minnesota, they kept saying, well, gosh, this deal isn't as good as the one you gave me 2 years ago.
Right.
So that opened up the conversation of, well, did you know that we also operate in Kansas City, Missouri? And then when we explained that it's the same process that we've been doing in Minneapolis, I had a lot of people that said, okay, great, start showing me Kansas City, Missouri. And so we've taken a lot of people that were originally investing in Minnesota that are now buying from us in Missouri.
Yeah, that's great. So let's kind of go into talking about more of a wholesale, a full service wholesaling model. And what's interesting about this is I think most people that wholesale, there's a couple reasons why they do it. One of which is definitely ease, and that's because they tend to just, get a property at X price and market it to folks. And I mean, I'll tell you, I've wholesaled, I don't know, 100, 150 houses, generally assignments, and most of the people that have bought from me, I've never met. It was usually done very quickly. Usually had an administrative assistant that was helping facilitate it. And we never focused on building relationships. I rehab a lot too, so we really kind of spent our time rehabbing for ourselves and reselling, and the wholesaling was just an easy path to kind of keep some cash flow coming in and do what we need to do there. But we really hadn't put much thought into, I mean, of course, if somebody had a problem, I was always there, but we weren't trying to provide a service, if you will, other than we acquired a house, who wants it type mentality, which I think is pretty common. So this is interesting. So talk a little bit about why it may make sense to provide a higher level of service when you're wholesaling.
Yeah, great question, Mike. So, and don't get me wrong, I still love to do my quick in and out deals too. If I can assign the contract and get paid up front and not have to do the renovation, I will do that all day long.
Yeah.
What we found is that there's a new wave of buyers entering the market right now. Market's gone through a correction, values are starting to come up, and now you have all these people that are looking at, let's say they've been invested in stocks heavily for the last 7 years. They've had a really good run, particularly the last 2 years. But if you look at stock values, not to be corny with my wave example here, but all asset classes go up and down. Stocks have been on a run now for a long time, and they're probably due for a market correction at some point.
Sure,
some are speculating next year, etc. Well, I have folks like that. Like one of my buyers, he's a missionary in China, and he rode the Chinese real estate market all the way up here, and like it's on the edge right now.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, he pulled all of his money out of China, and he sent it back to me to start buying duplexes for cash flow. So with that wave of buyers, like this gentleman, his name is Mark, he's a missionary in China. He doesn't have time to go out and hunt for deals here, nor does he have time to go out and hunt for contractors and property management. So when he heard about us doing totally turnkey, he said, yeah, sign me up, I'm in. And then we were able to back it up with good deals, good service, etc. And then I picked up more doctors and more dentists in the last 2 years than I ever have in the 7+ years I've been doing this.
Yeah.
We want to be equipped for that kind of buyer. That's why full servicing comes into play.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you have specific numbers to share, but clearly when you provide more service like that, you get repeat customers, but also I assume you're able to charge a premium for that.
Yeah, typically on a wholesale deal like that, and I'm just generalizing this on some of our smaller middle America 3-bedroom 2-bath ranch style houses, we can usually make about 10 grand to do something like that. But there's a lot of costs that come into it too. I mean, you've got your team on the ground. We have a project manager that is full-time on our salary running contractors, and we've got people that are doing the acquisition side of the business. So there's cost to it too. Whereas on most of our quick assignments of contracts, we're making 3 to 5 grand.
Okay, and you're doing this not just for rental properties. You're actually doing some fix and flip stuff on the behalf of other people as well. Is that right?
Yep, I'd say 2/3 are going rental, and then about 1/3 are going fix and flip.
Okay.
So there's a market that's coming back for fix and flip as well, especially in cities that we're working in that have started to recover. If they're still in the middle of the trough, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking. But for the cities that are going up in value right now, fix and flips are very much alive.
Yeah, and if you're doing fix and flips on the behalf of somebody else, are you initially assigning it to them and then separately you're helping remodel, or are you taking possession of those as well, ownership of those as well?
So in a state that has that red tape that we talked about earlier, what we do, so this is kind of tricky. You'll want to sit down and partner with your I'm not an attorney, partner with your own attorney. But what we do is we do a double close, and we sell it to the buyer as is. So the contract straight up says as is. But on the double close, we add in enough money for us to profit and for the renovation. And then what we do with that cash, it goes into escrow. And then our contractor draws up from the escrow account based on our on-site inspections. Okay. So essentially, we're not managing the rehab for them formally on paper. We sold them an as-is property, but the buyer ultimately knows that we're the ones that are driving the bus, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely a great case there for providing more service. Now, one of the things that comes with providing great service is more business, which sounds great. I presume the bottleneck for your business often is finding enough deals. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's always comes in waves. There's always a bottleneck, and you fix that one, and then it comes into another spot in the business. This year, particularly, it has gotten a little bit thinner out there, particularly if you're trying to work the MLS hard. The MLS it's got a lot of new people that are just walking into their realtor's office saying, hey, give me deals, so they're overpaying for stuff.
Right. What
we did this year to combat that is we actually launched a TV commercial. And the TV commercial, it's just a simple "We Buy Houses" message, and that message has driven home a lot of leads for us. Okay. So we're working non-MLS channels harder than we ever have before.
Yeah, yeah. So for folks that are interested in learning more about what you're doing and your company, where should they go to learn more?
So please check us out at our webpage. It's calhounventures.com, CalhounVentures.
Okay, and we'll add a link for that down below. Anything else you want to add for talking about, the turnkey model for folks that maybe aren't familiar with it, that may be interested in investing with you or people like you, what the opportunity is there?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, how do I get in? Is this full service thing too much for me? Then I would advise finding somebody in your area that does services like ours and partner up with them if they're a good, reputable company. You can do a lot of business with those folks that, like the doctors and the dentists and such, that are entering the market now that have cash but don't have time. So it's a good window to get in. And then if you want to look at partnering with us, check us out on our webpage. We're happy to partner with people on deals. We treat it the same as any other assignment of contract fee or a bird dog fee or a wholesale fee.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll have links down below for anybody that wants to learn more. Nate, thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate the lesson, and you're doing some pretty interesting stuff there.
Thanks, Mike. All right, we'll catch you later.
All right, have a great day. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.